One question I've often wondered is how old school boxing training compares to modern methods of training. Logic tells us that as time goes on and the sport advances, our training methods become better and more efficient. But is that always the case? In this video, we'll compare old school boxing training versus modern training and see if we've truly advanced the sport's training methods. As with new school boxing training, old school training boxing is based all on repetition. Boxing reps are the amount or quantity of motions, punches, sparring rounds, and techniques that a fighter performs. This is by far the best way to train muscle memory and prepare a fighter to fight. The difference is that old school training employed different types of reps than its modern cousin. Fighters from days gone by ran long runs outside in the fresh air to prepare the cardiovascular system for battle, also known as roadwork. These long runs were used to train the combatant to breathe normally and not hold one's breath or gasp for air under stress. Walking and hiking also played a part in the old schoolers' conditioning routines. Today's fighters run shorter distances and in some cases indoors on a treadmill or elliptical, and mix in high-speed intervals to mimic the conditions to be expected during a fight. The old-timers also did intervals during their 10 and 12-mile runs that included bursts of high-speed running, even though the science regarding interval training had yet to be discovered. The 5 major exercises for old-school boxers and wrestlers were push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, deep knee bends, and neck bridges used to strengthen the neck. Equipment used to supplement the 5 basic exercises were the wall-mounted pulley machine, stationary bike with a weighted wheel, medicine balls, and the rowing machine. The use of barbells or heavy weightlifting was highly discouraged to say the least, but light dumbbells were used while fighters shadowboxed. The use of old school equipment was to enhance flexibility, muscle suppleness, build strength, and increase muscular endurance. For example, the rowing machine provided functional strength, muscular endurance, and flexibility in its motions. The old school fighter could easily dust off sets of 100 push-ups, 100 deep knee bends, 50 pull-ups, and 100 sit-ups at a time. This type of regimen made a fighter naturally strong for his own body weight, increased muscular endurance, and produced a fine, low-mass musculature. In the old days of fighting, it was rare to see a tight, muscle-bounded fighter like we see today. Large muscles tend to be heavy and dense, taxing the cardiovascular system and impeding the speed of a fighter. The fine muscles developed by fighters of old were flexible, strong, and could endure 15 or more rounds of fighting, and per-pound punch averages in all weight classes were higher than today's punch averages. To develop power, many fighters, including the Brown Bomber Joe Louis and Gene Tunney, chopped down trees with an axe in lumber camps. This developed the whole body, especially the hip twist, shoulders, and arms used for power punching. Cutting down trees also gave a fighter a sense of accomplishment and purpose, not experienced by today's fighters hitting a large rubber tire with a sledgehammer, so it was good for the mind too. New schoolers aren't adverse to lifting weights and in many cases have a weightlifting regime that they follow during training. Old schoolers also conditioned their hands, wrists, and forearms to enhance the punch delivery system and prevent hand injuries. Grip machines were common in some old school fighters' camps. New school training implements and includes plyometrics as an addendum to normal boxing routines to increase power and quickness. Additionally, old schoolers bathed their faces and skin in salt water to toughen the skin and prevent cuts. When it came to skills training, the usual suspects are part of both the old school and the new school: jump rope, speed bags, heavy bags, and double end bags. New schoolers can also use a reflex bag that combines the motions of the speed bag and the double end bag into one bag, and is good for developing sharp reflexes. Old-timers missed out on this one. The multi-purpose medicine ball was used by old-timers like punch mitts are used today. Old school and current trainers also pound the stomach, chest, ribs, hips, and thighs and kidneys with this implement to toughen those body parts up. The first notable trainer to employ punch mitts was Charlie Goldman, who in the late 1940s had some foam sewed onto some work gloves so he could teach Rocky Marciano how to punch accurately. The jump rope, as used in earlier days, provided coordination, conditioning, and balance to its practitioners. The exception to the standard was Sugar Ray Robinson, who implemented fancy footwork and high-speed jumps to his jump rope routines. Today's training uses the jump rope for development of quickness, conditioning, agility, and speed with its many drills. For punching power, Rocky Marciano allegedly punched a 300-pound punching bag while simultaneously doing deep knee bends. Today's fighters have been told that punchers are born, so those with minimal punching power accept this paradigm and do nothing to improve their punching power. Jack Dempsey, in his book Champion Fighting, said that punchers can be made and considered himself a made puncher. Sparring is the breakfast of champions, and old school fighters could expect to spar against the best possible sparring partners brought in because their style mimicked that of his fight night opponent. From the controlled sparring sessions, old school trainers could evaluate their fighters' strengths and weaknesses and implement techniques to improve on the weaknesses while also developing a fight night ring strategy. Today's fighters when sparring get into too many gym wars, and on fight night they find that they left the fight in the gym, and eventually after so many gym wars they've left their careers in the gym. The old-time fighters prepared comprehensively and fundamentally and stayed in shape between fights because they commonly fought once and sometimes twice a month. A short-notice fighter in those days was a dangerous opponent because they stayed ready. Unlike today's short-nosed fighter who may not have fought for a year or so and just accepts the fight for the payday. For the old schooler, training camp was like going back to school to relearn things you already knew, to stay sharp on the fundamentals of the sweet science, and to always be prepared. For the new schooler, in the modern age of hype and reality TV, if there is no hype, the new school mentality sees no reason or reward for going the extra yard.